Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got a lot of breaking news today on today's episode of Daily Palantir. Number one, the NHS contract kind of confirmed, kind of not confirmed, but we did get a really big piece to the story for why it's probably going to Palantir, so we're going to be discussing that as our main story for the day. Number two, HSBC Bank comes out with a new price target on Palantir for $21. Bank of America had $18 go to $21. Citibank had their $10 sell rating continue to be $10, and HSBC today upgrades them to $21. We're going to talk about why they upgraded them. And then finally, two smaller pieces of news. Apollo, one of Palantir's more underappreciated products, is officially offering free trials, and Palantir's Alex Karp wins an award. Don't go anywhere. Let's get right to it. Okay, first news of the day. This is a big one. NHS contract. Here you go. This is an article that broke this morning from digitalhealth.net. This is a blog in the UK. It's more than a blog. It's one of the more respected public journals around the NHS, healthcare, all the stuff going on in the UK. They've been covering the Federated Data Platform procurement process since 2022. And here's the headline that they dropped today. Palantir to be named as winner of Federated Data Platform. Now, look, when you see this headline, you get super excited and you're like, all right, Palantir won the deal. It's happening. Later into the article, you'll see they don't really have an official understanding of if Palantir is going to get the deal from like the NHS themselves. But what they've been able to deduce is that Palantir likely won the deal. And we kind of knew this, right? When Bloomberg reported it, we knew all throughout the speculation over the past couple of months that Palantir was likely getting this deal. So I am still under the assumption that Palantir is winning this deal. But this blog post today is not the only thing I can say for why they're getting the deal, even though I think they're getting the deal because it's literally not official from the NHS. So this is the last sentence of the blog post. Digital Health News sought confirmation from the NHS England and received the following response from a spokesperson. The supplier procurement process hasn't yet been concluded. And that's why I hesitate a little to say like, yes, we got the deal. This is a super big W. I know we're getting it. My assumption is we're definitely getting it, but the NHS has not made the announcement and Palantir has not made the announcement. So why did this company put out this blog post? Well, they said, Digital Health News understands that the decision on the award for the FDB procurement, originally expected to be announced in September, which then got delayed into October and now being into November, has now been signed off by ministers and it will be publicly announced within a matter of days. So as per their sources, the announcement will happen in a few days. Speaking at Digital Health's AI data event last week, Ming Tang, Chief Data and Analytics Officer for NHS England, said that the procurement was complete, but sign-off for the contract award was with ministers. On yesterday's episode of Daily Palantir, we talked about some of the people in the British Parliament that were very concerned about Palantir getting this deal because they simply felt that if people don't trust Palantir, they're not going to opt into giving their data to the FDP, which means the Federated Data Platform will become useless. Ministers were understood to have sought more evidence and support within the system for FDP before signing off the procurement decision. In October, some 16 trust medical directors lent their names to a letter of support for the FDP. So a bunch of doctors in October said, hey, we really want the FDP, like we should do it. People in the British version of Congress, which is their parliament, was a little scared, still a little scared of giving Palantir the contract. Now, it says Palantir, the current supplier for the FDP and widely seen as the favorite to win throughout the procurement, bid in partnership with Accenture. Rival bidders included Oracle and IBM. I did not know Oracle and IBM were bidding for this contract. I really hadn't seen their name pop up throughout the almost year and a half that I've been covering this story, so did not know they were in the running, but it seems like they were in the running. And the interesting thing here is that Accenture seems to have bid with Palantir, and Digital Health says they have been chosen as the winner for the £480 million federated data procurement process with an announcement expected imminently. A couple pieces of analysis from this. Number one, I trust Digital Health a lot. They've had pretty exceptional analysis over the past couple of years covering the FDP, covering everything with the NHS, covering everything in the UK. So I think it was very responsible of them to be like, look, we know it's happening. All of our sources are saying it's going to happen. We have all these, pieces of due diligence that are really not speculation anymore. This is like a definitive thing that's happening. An announcement is going to come imminently. But the NHS themselves has not officially said that the announcement is coming, and Palantir obviously has not said that the announcement is coming yet. So we don't have official word from the NHS or Palantir, but Digital Health is one of those companies that, given their track record, I would be shocked if they were wrong. And because Bloomberg reported it a month ago, Digital Health's reporting it now, it just seems very unlikely that Contexta is going to win the contract in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and then Palantir doesn't get. It would just be really weird, right? And I wouldn't imagine that to happen. So for what it's worth, I think this is a W. I think this is a win. I think we got the contract. The day it's really official, it's going to be really fun to talk about it, and I'll go more in depth. But as of now, this is a breaking news update because this is one of the most important blogs in the world basically saying that Palantir is going to get this deal. So it's one of those things you want to trust. It's kind of like when the Wall Street Journal breaks a story, it's like you really want to pay attention to it, because even if they don't have everything right, the majority of it's probably going to be right. Like, I think they broke the story around WeWork back in 2019 when they had all the accounting issues and stuff, and now WeWork just filed for bankruptcy. So I can digital health to something of that in the healthcare space. Second piece of analysis here is that apparently Palantir bid with Accenture on this. I don't think Accenture is going to get a majority of the 480 million pounds. I would even be surprised if they get half of it. I think they would maybe get, 5-10%. I would assume Accenture is more of a sales distribution partner for Palantir to be able to get all the hospitals and all the trusts and all the administrations in the NHS set up and ready to go. Accenture is a consulting firm. They work with large organizations, help them become more efficient, etc. But they're not a tech company. They're a consulting company. Palantir is actually a tech company that does some consulting. So I would imagine that Accenture, that has been a partner of Palantir since 2022, they had partnerships a while ago, is going to help them implement the FDP throughout the entire country in the United Kingdom. But I don't think they're going to be taking a 50% stake in this contract. That would be a little bit overkill for a consulting firm at the end of the day that is not that important compared to the software company building the software for the NHS. So that's another piece that I wanted to talk about. And then finally, again, the last thing I want to say on this is, if the announcement, as per the digital health says, is coming imminently, and they said they was going to come in mid-November. Well, we're about 6-7 days away from officially mid-November, and November 15th. I would imagine that the NHS is ramping up how they're going to advertise this to the UK public, because just yesterday, on yesterday's show, I showed a clip of David Davis, one of the Conservative Party members in the UK, basically saying, hey, even if Palantir does everything exceptionally, because no one trusts them, no one's going to opt into their data. It seems like the NHS is going against what some of those people may be thinking around opt-ins, because they're basically feeling, look, if we're going to help protect your data, we're going to help protect your privacy, and we're going to reduce wait logs and wait times and backlogs, etc., then we think, I'm speaking from the NHS's perspective, my assumption is the NHS is thinking that people are going to opt in because the end result of having a better NHS will outweigh their concerns around privacy. And that's why it seems like they're going to announce it imminently. I actually thought they might not announce it for a while because they want to do a ton of advertising to get people to be ready to opt in. It seems like the NHS, if this argument is correct by digital health, that they're going to announce it imminently, then that means that they're not that concerned about people opting out. They know that people are going to want to opt in because they're going to get a better NHS experience, and that their advertising efforts either have been working or are going to start to ramp up in order to get to present Palantir to the UK public and media as a company that's actually trying to protect your data. Remember, every single person in the UK, 70 million people outside of the very rich elite that use private insurance, are affected by this FDP in some way. They will probably not know Palantir's name, but in some way or some form, they will be affected by Palantir. And it is probably in their interest to have a good, perception of Palantir if it's controlling their healthcare data versus a bad perception of them. So seems like we got the deal. Seems like the NHS is getting ready to announce it. We'll see the day where they actually officially announce it and Palantir gets the deal, and then we'll take a little celebratory run there. Stock really wasn't affected. It was up 1%, down 1% today, so nothing too crazy from this news. But another day closer to Palantir getting the NHS contract. All right, next story for today. HSBC comes out with a $21 price target on Palantir. Thank you to Palantir Chat for posting this. Here's what analyst Stephen Bursey had to say. He upgraded the stock to buy from a hold on last Friday after their earnings, cheering the software company's accelerated earnings and otherwise strong growth. So let's see what he has to say. He sees further momentum ahead for Palantir, writing that revenue could increase by 20 to 22% over 2024 and 2025. Right now, revenue growth is at 17%. That growth could be fueled by rising defense, counterterrorism, and intelligence spending amid high-end geopolitical unrest. Adjusted earnings per share, meanwhile, could jump 25% next year. Bursey said growth on the bottom line could outpace revenue growth on the heels of the company's operating leverage, he added. Palantir could also capitalize on the AI fervor, and management recently highlighted a new go-to-market strategy for the company's AIP platform, which are boot camps, and it seems like HSBC, along with Bank of America, thought that boot camps were a pretty decent strategy. Quote from Bursey says, "We believe the changed approach is likely to result in faster revenue growth and lower sales and marketing costs as a percentage of revenue." And I agree with that as well. I mean, these boot camps, I don't know exactly what the unit economics are on these, but they seem to be pretty effective if you could get 10 clients in one boot camp and over 2 days potentially convert, 80% of them, 8 out of those 10 clients. Definitely will help with customer acquisition costs and lifetime value for those clients. While Palantir shares were trading at a valuation multiple of 60 times 2024 earnings, double the multiple of the broader software sector, he said the premium is warranted given that Palantir is growing earnings more quickly. So even though Palantir is double what traditional software stocks are currently trading at, which is 60 times 2024 earnings, Bursey of HSBC Bank says, look, this is a premium that's well deserved for Palantir, and it's not the worst premium in the world. We apply our unchanged target PEG multiple of 1.5 to our 5-year non-GAAP EPS CAGR estimate of 50% and our next year non-GAAP estimate of 30 cents a share, rendering our 12-month fair value to $22.63. I think this is a very similar analysis that Mariana Perez from Bank of America did too as well. We discount our 12-month fair value to a present value using our equity cost of capital estimated of 11.1%, rendering our target price of $21, implying 16.9% upside. Look, it's not. I kind of have to agree. I mean, that analysis they put around AIP boot camps, lowering customer acquisition costs, and then all the different things that could increase growth, whether it's rising defense, counterterrorism, more intelligence spending, all the different NATO contracts that are up in the air, U.S. commercial growing 33%. I mean, there's a lot of different catalysts for Palantir. Now, remember, this $21 price target, I think a lot of people forget in terms of these price targets, these are always a year out. So they're expecting another year of net income, another year of earnings per share, right? Going from, 3 cents a share to like 30 cents a share. They're assuming more net income. They're assuming billions of dollars more of revenue factored into the company, into the stock price to be able to get to 21. Currently, Palantir is at 18, right? So it's the one thing you have to the one thing all of us have to understand is that at the end of the day, the company or the stock is kind of close to a lot of these price targets, $18.54 right now. And that means there is upside, right? $21, $22 from 18, there's upside. But if you're buying it now, you also have to remember that if that's the price target that all the analysts are baking in after having all these more lofty assumptions, then it could be a price that's a little bit more to the upside right now, given the price target is a year from now, and we're basically at this price target, $3 away from the price target. A year before the price target theoretically should be achieved. Now, you have to weigh that against the fact that these companies will always be overvalued. They're going to be generational tech companies. There's a lot of hype around them. The retail movement around Palantir is magnificent. A lot of people like these companies, which is why when you get in, you kind of want to get in and stay for the ride. That's how I at least think about it. But it also means don't chase and don't have a ton of FOMO, because there's a lot that has to be baked in terms of the growth to even justify current prices along with other prices. It's not that these prices are necessarily overvalued. It's that these prices are baking in a lot of assumptions. And if those assumptions don't come true, which we know, I mean, you can look at Tesla, right? It was at 290 in August. Now it's at 210. Like, there are things that happen around assumptions. This is the nature of the public equity markets. But DCAing and trying to find your average and find your sweet spot is where I think is the good spot in terms of figuring out how you want to have an investment allocation towards this company. My point is just don't chase. There's no reason to chase a company that's up 30%. Could it go up another 30%? Sure. But chasing it on the way is not necessarily the best investment strategy, in my opinion. This is not financial advice, but that's just how I conceptualize it. So for me, under 15 has always been my buy target, and I've been publicly buying on Twitter. If you guys follow me long, under 15, I love that price right there. This one's a little bit up there given the growth still has to also match up to some of these valuations. But you look at some of the other companies, Snowflake's at 50 billion, Databricks at 43 billion on the private market, Datadog just went up 30%, they're up at 32 billion. SaaS in general is getting a little bit more of a premium, and that's why, even if you think this price is a little too high for Palantir, it's getting the premium because all of SaaS is getting the premium. And when you look at some of the metrics like stock-based compensation as a percentage of revenue, it's actually way better than some of the other companies, right? And the company's been profitable for the past 4 quarters, and they have 3 billion in cash, and they have no debt. So the conclusion is you don't have to chase, but you also do have to recognize that there does need to be more growth baked in to get to some of these price targets that these analysts have. Nonetheless, Palantir has been in this $18 range for almost a week now after earnings. I don't know if we get back down to 15, 16. I don't know if we stay in this 18 range for a while, but if you got in before 18, then you're in before 18. So if you're in below 18, then you have some gains, even if they are on paper. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about today is a couple of things. So first, the quick thing right here. Lord Grimm posted this on Twitter. Palantir's CEO Alex Karp won the Tech Freedom Award. So this was posted on LinkedIn. Great night at the Tech Freedom Summit hosted by the Crack Institute of Tech Diplomacy at Purdue. I'm probably saying that wrong. It's probably not Crack, Krach. The comments will get me for that. Especially an honor to see Dr. Karp awarded with the Tech Freedom Award along with a compelling as always speech. So I wish we had a video of this, but Karp, I guess, gave a speech here. Crack's mission is that technology must advance freedom, which I couldn't agree with more. So grateful to be part of a mission-focused institute at the intersection of technology. Purdue is a university in Indiana. So it's nice to see that Karp was awarded there. I don't know if Karp was actually there and he gave a speech. Maybe someone else gave him a speech, but Karp was recognized for the Tech Freedom Award. This institute at Purdue University wants to highlight technology as a way to advance freedom. Palantir is basically the resemblance of technology, making sure, freedom is protected as a result of technology and Western values, all that stuff. So it makes sense that Alex Karp was granted the Tech Freedom Award. Okay, next piece of news that I want to talk about right here is something Arnie posted. So Palantir just launched Apollo free trials. This is really interesting. Apollo is one of those products we don't talk about enough, really because a lot of times it's hard to understand, hard to explain, and Palantir just doesn't do a great job marketing what Apollo is. But here's what we got on the website. Request a free trial. Get 30 days of free access to Apollo, Palantir's premier software delivery and day 2 operations platform. So what is Apollo? I wanted to take this moment, given they're trying to expand the free trials and probably try to find another go-to-market strategy like Bootcamps is working for AIP for something like Apollo to talk about it. This is on PalantirBullets.com. I'll leave this in the description. This is Arnie's Substack, one of the best Substacks in the world, so I would highly recommend subscribing to it and learning about Palantir. What is Apollo? Apollo is the brain behind Foundry and Gotham. Software drives enterprise success to a point where we can almost say that all companies are software companies. Software is no longer a nice accessory for companies. However, creating software is difficult. Delivering and managing software at scale at an efficient manner, the so-called software supply chain, is even more difficult, yet existential. Apollo is a software platform that allows you to simultaneously deploy software across your entire organization. And Palantir recognized the need for this a long time ago, as Arnie talks about here, when they started to work with software companies. So Apollo helps companies manage their software supply chain. And this graphic, I think, is really good to help you understand what's going on here. So developers write code, then you have to have manual upgrades, manual installations, manual configurations of that code. As per of 2020, when they really started pushing Apollo and they were developing it before then, Apollo lets you do continuous delivery, automated upgrades, and automated configuration throughout the entire organization, which connects to cloud or on-prem that allows that software to be deployed at scale. What that means in layman's terms is essentially imagine you're Netflix and you're pushing a ton of different upgrades to the Netflix platform. You have upgrades to user recommendations. You have upgrades to the UI. You have upgrades to the backend infrastructure that hosts all the content. You have upgrades to the password sharing protocols. You have upgrades to the little designs around how you switch between different parts of the UI. I mean, there's so many different things that go into a software company, which is why there is this kind of software supply chain throughout every single organization that engages with tech in some capacity, that you don't want your developers that are pushing updates to be stuck to push those updates, right? Because you're like waiting for 1 or 2 things to be done in order to get the okay to actually push the update. Apollo is a backend infrastructure for an enterprise that manages the entire simultaneous and autonomous deployment of that software at scale in a confidential, protected manner for an organization. And this is something Palantir recognized as they started using it within their own company because they were pushing so many software updates. When Palantir was born, the cloud sector was still in its infancy. Its government clients were only running Gotham on-prem on their own servers, not in the cloud, not in something like AWS. This meant manual installations and updates. Therefore, software deployment was slow and very labor intensive. This was a major reason why Palantir's contribution margins were initially low, because when you have to deploy something to a manual server, right? You have to manually go to the server and actually physically work with it. It's not going to be as profitable. Apollo was built initially to help Palantir build and maintain its Foundry platform towards a cloud SaaS offering. Now, Apollo is the brain that helps Palantir deliver Foundry and Gotham updates in all the environments, from the public clouds, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, to the back of Humvees, which are military jeeps, or even satellites. Apollo currently supports the deployment on 300 unique environments. And so that's kind of, I mean, I don't want to go super deep into it right here, but this is a high-level overview of what Apollo is. So, if Netflix is not just using Azure, if they're using AWS, if they're using GCP, and they have to deploy all these different product updates and back-end movements for their product within all these different environments, not even just on cloud hosting providers, but on a variety of other different mechanisms, you need something to manage all of that and vertically integrate it within the entire organization at scale. And Apollo was created for Palantir because they needed to get Foundry and Gotham, their core products, Gotham for the government, Foundry for the enterprise, to be deployed in a particular way in a variety of environments for their clients. And instead of going on-prem, instead of going to the actual physical servers and manually doing it, they decided to come up with a software that controls all of that. And like innovative companies do, they realized, wait, we could offer this to other companies and this could actually be a really good product. So the whole point of bringing this up is that if they're offering free trials, they may be seeing more demand for Apollo they may be seeing that more people want to try it out. One of the things that's important here is if you get a client in the AIP bootcamp and they're interested in AIP, which means they have to be interested in Foundry because they have to have an ontology to be able to make sense of anything of AIP, they might be interested and be like, what's this Apollo thing? You know, it's like, hey, AIP is kind of cool. Foundry's kind of cool. Is this Apollo thing going to save me some more money? Can you give me a good deal here? Can you give me like all three of them together? You know, so there might be seeing some interest and they might be using that same kind of go-to-market around AIP, give it away for free, let people fall in love with it, then monetize it, that they're using for Apollo. I don't know the exact metrics on Apollo. Like we knew the company did 558 million last quarter in revenue, 300 of that, 315 of that, whatever government, the rest commercial. Out of all that commercial, how much was Apollo? Out of all that government, how much was Apollo? We don't really know. They don't disclose that stuff. And so I would love to see those disclosures in the future, and I would love to see how the company is thinking of Apollo as one of their premier products to bring to the marketplace. And if a free trial is what does it, then maybe a free trial is what helps the expansion of the Apollo product. All right, that's it for me today. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. NHS deal seems like it's coming in the bag. Seems like we're going to get this sucker. It's going to take some time to get that announcement, but if digital health is right and it's coming imminently, then maybe they announce it soon. So I will give the official congrats to shareholders when we get that deal. That deal has so many implications, and when we get that deal, I will regurgitate the implications of that deal on that video. But as of now, it seems like it's happening, and we'll just wait for the official announcement. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Thank you for all the support on the content. It means the absolute world to me. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.